Nick speaking, and welcome to this video, the Tyranid Learning Curve. And in this video we're going to have a look at another troop's choice, and that's the Genestealers. Again, another iconic Tyranid unit. And as you can see, I've got my Broodlord there, which is a Genestealer upgrade. We'll talk about him in a minute. Let's just put him aside. Okay, so let's have a look at these guys. Now, the first thing to mention about these guys is that they do not worry about synapse, and that's what makes them a great unit. So these guys here, you can just have them independent from the hive mind. They can be away from your core army, and they don't have to worry about synapse. Now they are leadership 10, so they've got a decent leadership, which is nice. Not only that, but they have the ability to infiltrate. So you can infiltrate forward away from any synapse issues that you've got, and you can hide out on little objectives dotted all around the board if you want to. So that's one great advantage. We're going to run through the stats very quickly. Weapon skill 6, so pretty decent. No ballistic skill because they've got no guns. Strength 4, toughness 4, just the 1 wound. The initiative 6, which is great, 2 attacks, as I said, leadership 10, and here comes the bad thing. They have a 5+ save, which is dreadful. They used to have a 4+ save, which is at least half decent. At least the standard bolt guns in the game wouldn't just take your save away, but now even a bolt gun takes your save away, and that means you're going to be cowering in terrain as much as you can to get your cover save. Now obviously there are a lot of guns which deny cover saves in the game as well. Excuse me, flamers and templates and whirlwinds and everything else, so you're not actually safe in terrain either. Now, yes, like I said, you can infiltrate them forward. So if you can get in a nice piece of terrain, infiltrate them forward, that's great. And that's going to be your main issue here, is they are a close combat unit. They come as standard with rending claws, which is pretty nice. But your main issue is going to be getting them into close combat. If you keep them at the back with your normal deployment, they're going to struggle to get anywhere. Unless you're specifically holding them back to take objectives, which is fine. Keep a unit back, put them onto an objective. But most of the time you're probably going to be infiltrating these forward, and that's where the unit size can come in. So these guys you can take between 5 and 20. So if you are infiltrating forward, generally it's better to have a smaller unit, between 5 and 10, because getting them behind a building or a piece of terrain can be tricky if you've got too many there. Now once you've got them forward, they can do 2 things. They can potentially attract some attention, so they can be quite a nice distraction unit. Obviously, yes, it does mean you're sacrificing your points, but if you've just got 5 guys there, they're only 14 points each. That's with the rending claws, so it's not too disastrous. But if you want to actually physically try to get these into close combat, that's where your problem lies, because with that 5+ save, you're going to be hit, with Overwatch, and it's going to reduce the numbers in your unit, and it's going to reduce the range, because you're more than likely going to take some casualties. Now obviously you can say, yes, well I can put them in terrain, at least I get my cover save. But the other issue that you've got, so they're a massive initiative 6, which is awesome. They don't have any flesh hooks, no grenades. So once you do assault, you're not going to be going at initiative 6. So they are actually quite hard to get into combat. But when you do, they actually can perform quite well, especially if you get lucky with those 6s to rend. Now you can obviously do some upgrades. Scything Talons, 4 points, total waste of time, just a melee weapon. And sadly, Scything Talons don't do what they used to, which was let you reroll the 1s. You can take adrenal glands to give you furious charge, etc. But again, it probably just isn't worth the points. and you could take toxin sacks to make them poison. Again, it's just not worth the points. These guys will die, there's no doubt about it. So you want to put the minimum amount of points into them. Now, the Broodlord, this gets him in. So you can upgrade one of your Stealers to a Broodlord. Now, this is a huge investment. It's 60 points for the Broodlord. Now, he's slightly better stats-wise. Weapon skill 7, strength 5, toughness 5. He does have 3 wounds, which is quite nice, and he has initiative 7. He has more attacks, 4 attacks. Still leadership 10, but this time with a 4+ save. So it does potentially add quite a bit to the unit in terms of extra wounds, a little bit higher initiative, and general beefing of the unit, but 60 points. It's quite expensive. Now, the Broodlord, and the main reason why you're going to be taking the Broodlord is for his psychic power. There's a master level 1, and he always knows the horror special psychic power. Now, the horror is quite a nasty power because it's a 24-inch range, and your target takes a pinning check on -2 leadership. Now, if your enemy unit gets pinned, that's going to be really, really useful to helping the rest of your army come forward. So it is a big investment, but I actually really like the Broodlord, and especially if you're having, I would say, more fun games. I mean, I can't see Genestealers being very competitively used, but I think for fun games, I think actually they're really good. 2 or 3 units of Genestealers with the Broodlord. At least in a couple of them, you want to have at least 2 Broodlords just to keep popping that horror off, really annoy your enemy, get some attention on these guys because they're going to die regardless. You're going to have other troops, you're going to have your warriors, you're going to have your little bugs, and you want to basically use the Genestealers to distract your enemy more than anything. Certainly in those bigger games. In the smaller games, slightly different, because most of the time you're probably just going to be holding them back for objectives. 5 Genestealers on an objective. They don't have to worry about keeping within synapse range. Really, really useful for that. So I think on the whole there are actually positives for Genestealers. It is a shame that they're not quite what they used to be, but they're definitely not usable, and certainly they are a fun unit. As long as you realise that potentially you could be putting them on the table and then the next turn taking them off the table, maybe even without a save. So bear that in mind. But with a bit of experience, they can actually be quite good fun to use. And actually, when you do get them into combat and you're hitting at those initiative 6 and you're getting those rending attacks through, they can be quite nasty. Okay, so that's it for the Genestealers. Next up, we're going to look at Termagants in the next video. Thanks for watching.